livestock, and the basic necessities of life. Not much, but at least something the Germans cannot seize. And what little they have, they use against the Germans. Moonshine to bribe sentries and ease raiding parties through the checkpoints that already surround the forest. And afterwards, a joke shared at the drunken Germans' expense. They are waging war to the death against a terrible invader. They are fighting for their homes. Their prayers are for motherland and hearth, not for Stalin the atheist. And Stalin views these nascent resistance groups with distrust. Following his most basic instinct, he sees them as potential anti-communist armies, as a threat. Missing a chance to exploit their military potential, he at first refuses to supply them. Only Beria's NKVD units receive official support and supplies to operate behind the German lines. Small cells of organized party workers, NKVD personnel, and young Komsomol members are trained to form underground resistance or partisan units under central control. But Beria's agents offer no comfort to local people. Outsiders from the cities, they follow military priorities with no thought for local needs. Priorities that often include the arbitrary execution of community leaders. Under pressure from renewed German offensives all along the Eastern Front, Stalin is forced to change his mind. Now he recognizes the resistance movements, calling for the formation of otriadi, official partisan units in all occupied territories. Arms and Red Army advisors are fed into the occupied zones. Partisan units are enlarged, merged, re-equipped. And the women, as Soviet women have always done, take their full share of combat and command duty. But what Stalin supports, he must also control. The otriadi become part of the Red Army, given ranks and thus responsibility to authority. And like every other regular soldier, partisans must swear an oath to the dictator. It is an oath that cannot be broken, on pain of death. Suddenly, Russian propaganda newsreels find room for resistance heroes like the Ukrainian Yaremchuk. We'll put out the fires that the Germans have lit throughout our land with German blood. Stalin's speeches are transmitted throughout the forests. And the larger partisan bands find themselves housing NKVD officers from Moscow. The Otriadi are organized centrally from Moscow. Stalin installs Belarusian partisan leader Ponomarenko as their overall commander. Field generals are appointed: Kovpak, Fyodorov, Grudniev, to recruit and control partisans across vast occupied areas. In the Ukraine, General Fyodorov heads one massive recruitment drive in person. Many of those who fail to volunteer will be conscripted. By the late summer of 1942, an estimated 150,000 partisans in bands of anything between 10 and 1,000 fighters are embroiled in a full-scale forest war all over the occupied zones. Now the occupying power is under pressure. Like the mirage of a quick victory over the Red Army, Hitler's plans to fully exploit his new empire's economic resources are evaporating. The brunt of anti-partisan fighting falls on 9 undermanned and mostly overage German security divisions. Though constantly reinforced, they cannot hope to wrest control of these vast forests from a hidden enemy. But they must try, surrounding huge tracts of land with barbed wire in the vain hope of trapping and starving their foe. Their grim failure is reflected in SS figures for the last 6 months of 1942. Jews killed, 363,000. Suspected partisan sympathizers, 19,000. Partisan combat deaths, 1,300. 737 partisans executed on the spot. Another 7,827 after interrogation. But survival is not easy. Partisan wounded must travel the same tortuous pathways as their supplies. Hauled under fire to the temporary refuge of a primitive field hospital.